Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and we're getting toward the end of day 2 of our 5-day Global Education Conference. It's just been a tremendous experience so far, over 400 sessions in the course of 5 days, quite literally 24 hours a day, and we're delighted to have Jenny Buccos here with us. Welcome, Jenny.
Thanks for having me.
We express our appreciation to the conference sponsors. What a terrific outpouring of support we've had, both from sponsors, supporters, partners, advisory board members. Just a terrific, fun event this year. Thank you so much to everybody involved. This is now a chance for those of you who are in the audience to let us know where you're participating from. Look for the star to the left of the map. Click on that star and then click again. You need to click it twice and then click on the map and let us know where you are, and put that in the chat if you would. We know that some of you have come right from other sessions. We know that others will come in as we keep going forward, and please do welcome them in the chat and let them know you're glad they're here. And we are glad that you are here. Okay, Jenny, take it away.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. If there are any problems with the sound, please just let me know and I'll adjust it. My name is Jenny Buccos, and I am the founder, creator, and director of Project Explorer. So before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then we'll dig right in. Okay, so who am I? I'm a world traveler. 5 days ago, I hit my 50th country. I consider myself a global innovator in education. I founded the multi-award-winning Project Explorer educational series 2 years before YouTube debuted. So online video in the classroom 2 years before online video became part of our everyday life. And I'm a filmmaker. I've created over 400 globally focused short films for students and educators. So what is Project Explorer? Project Explorer's mission is to bring the world into the classroom with free multimedia content and lesson plans that improve students' global awareness and cross-cultural understanding. Now, I've already given you a little bit of the video content we've done. Since our inception in 2003, Project Explorer has been at the forefront of global education in primary and secondary schools by creating more than 400 globally focused videos for the 3rd to 12th grade demographic, 1,689 images, 1,278 educational blogs and other written materials, and 175 cross-curricular lesson plans. Now, this is all original content. Project Explorer is not content aggregators. But before I talk about the importance of global competency in Project Explorer in depth, I thought it might be helpful to understand a little about my background and how it informed and inspired my work in the global education movement. Because after all, I consider myself an unlikely person to be speaking about global citizenship and education. I grew up in upstate New York, and my mom is actually taking part in this conference, so I thank her for some of the family photos, although they are slightly embarrassing for this presentation. So I grew up in upstate New York, about 4 hours outside of New York City, in a small farming community called Fonda. At the time, Fonda had a population of about 800 people, of which around 98% were white. Most of our local newspapers and television news pretty much consisted of things that happened within a 50-mile radius of our town. Looking back on my childhood, I can only recall a few international stories that received significant media attention in the local press. Things like the fall of the Berlin Wall, Tiananmen Square, and the Lockerbie bombing. Now, this type of news coverage was common in small-town America when I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. Things that happened to people you knew or people in your town were important, and things that happened outside of your community happened to other people and weren't talked about much. Now, growing up, my family took trips up and down the East Coast, once to Canada, and once a beach holiday in Mexico. This is us in Tulum in Mexico. Now, while this may seem unusual today, at the time we were one of the most well-traveled families in town. These trips and my limited international media exposure were the sum of my worldview. Traveling abroad wasn't something really I had aspired to do or something that had been encouraged while I was in school. And by the time I completed university, I really hadn't experienced much of the world. In 1999, I moved to New York City and entered the professional world, and I was dreaming of a career in the theater. I worked as a temp at a major investment bank to make ends meet. And in 2000, I was hired as a full-time employee and sent on assignment to Asia, which led me to applying for my very first passport. My time working in Hong Kong and Tokyo immediately changed me and began to help me shape a more global view. I became interested in making myself aware of political and social issues and worked on becoming a global citizen. So I began to travel. I visited the Parthenon in Athens, and this was the first time I had seen something I had learned about in a textbook. Things in textbooks were facts that I was just supposed to know. I had never had a personal connection with a place or a topic like this before. And about the same time, I was introduced to Michael Palin's travel documentaries. Yes, this is the guy from the Monty Python series. And while he visited places I had seen in textbooks before, watching him describe a new place as he experienced it created a personal connection nearly as strong for me as being there myself. I started to think about how learning could be more engaging or relevant by using the power of storytelling, and how this technique could help students learn more about their world. And right about this time, just when I was getting deeply inspired about what the world had to offer, I was in New York City during the attacks of September 11th, and in many ways, these events drew America's attention to the world around us for the first time in a very long time. We started to ask a lot of questions about the Middle East and about Islam that we frankly didn't have the answers to. The more I watched our news and the more I observed people around me, the more I worried about what this was doing to the American psyche. Students were now growing up in a society where anything foreign was quite literally something to be feared, and this didn't match what I had experienced in my travels. I wanted to do something to help grow an understanding across cultures. So in 2003, I began Project Explorer to provide students and educators with virtual passports, especially to those whom travel is simply not possible, as a way to try to make the foreign less so. So I was faced with numerous challenges when starting Project Explorer. The first was in developing a free online resource before online video consumption was mainstream. And to give you some sense of this, this is what YouTube looked like in 2005. Its first content debuted in April of that year. And below you can see that's what Project Explorer looked like in 2005. Online video was extremely new, and most individuals had barely seen it, and it certainly hadn't made its way into the classroom. The second challenge I faced when starting Project Explorer was based largely on perceptions and attitude. So I spent about 18 months doing research prior to starting Project Explorer, and the research that I pulled was between 2001 and 2003. There were numerous studies conducted on global education in American schools as a result of 9/11 and the subsequent increase in international media attention to the Middle East. And these are some of the more interesting findings that I came across. Only 1 in 7 students could locate Iran or Iraq on a map, despite the almost daily presence of these countries in the news. 56% of high school students were unable to locate India, home to 17% of the people on Earth. Only 8% of secondary schools offer a Model UN program. That one's slightly more understandable. However, nearly 1 in 3 students and teachers see international education as useful but not necessary. So after 18 months of research and a year of content production, Project Explorer officially launched in 2006. Our first series focused on Shakespeare's England, and I selected this location and theme for several reasons. First, as a first-time filmmaker and still relatively inexperienced travel, England was an easy location to coordinate filming, and obviously there were no language barriers. Second, Shakespeare is a subject matter that I'm very familiar with, and nearly every school covers Shakespeare at some point. So Project Explorer as a free resource and Shakespeare was not a hard sell. So I know that some of you have already been on the website, and this is what it looked like when we debuted. So when students and educators would come to the Project Explorer website to experience Shakespeare's England, it was broken down into 3 sections. Upper elementary for 3rd to 5th grade, middle school for 6th to 8th grade, and then the high school demographic. And every project is laid out pretty much exactly the same way. So there's navigation down the left, and it's designed like a virtual field trip. So you start on day 1, understanding what it's like to arrive in England, and then you navigate through. And as you navigate through, the topics and the themes build on one another from the previous day. In addition to the film I mentioned, we have produced written content. These are all done in the form of educational blogs. So you have a storyteller that takes you through from day 1 to the end on location. And embedded within those blogs are some hyperlinked words, and that works just like Wikipedia. You pop it up, and it's a definition, a person, a place, anything that needs to be expanded on. And again, this is all original content tailored for each academic level. You were never sent off the website, so that made it an easy sell as well. And then down the left-hand side, the right-hand side are our multimedia assets. So you can see this is what a video looks like. If you click on one of the buttons on the right-hand side, the video will pop up in the screen, so you're always 1 click away from where you need to be, just 1 click away. We keep all of the videos short, under 5 minutes. The concept is to be self-contained, simplistic in design, and the videos are supposed to be short because they are incredibly focused on one theme, and they are meant to be a springboard for further dialogue in your classroom. So they're not meant to be the be-all and end-all on Shakespeare's England, but just the springboard for future dialogue and exploration. And now this is teachers' favorite parts. On the back end of that, we have free lesson plans, cross-curricular lesson plans, laid out the same exact way as the educational portion for nearly every chapter that we have. There's a curriculum map, so you can say, I'm a 6th grade math teacher, what do you have? They are developed by a core of 50 international educators who have donated their time, talent, and expertise to write these for us, and then we update them as we receive educator feedback on what worked, what didn't work. And again, everything here is completely free of charge. It's been free since 2006, and we have no intention of changing that. So since 2006, Project Explorer has created content on the following countries, and we've expanded our programming to cover sensitive, sometimes controversial issues for the classroom. And here's just a quick, I'm going to give you a quick selection of some of these overlooked, sometimes sensitive issues explored in our series. And Steve, that's our video, if you don't mind pulling that up for me.
So you may have to hit play for this video to start.
You need me to hit play? Was everybody able to see that? Great. So that's just some of the selections I pulled specifically for high school students. And of course, the images and the commentary may not be shocking or provocative to you. Since you're participating in this conference, that demonstrates an interest in cross-cultural exchange and global understanding. But you can imagine in a high school that does not embrace subject matters of this nature, how powerful that can be for students. So that was work from Thailand, South Africa, Jordan, and our Mexico series. And I did see I had a question earlier, and we'll go back to that when we do a Q&A about selecting themes. So each series we produce has between 35 and 45 videos. So again, keeping them under 3 minutes, but between 35 and 40 videos. So we're able to cover every subject area, every discipline within a series. Okay, so back to the idea of being shocking or provocative. The fact is, understanding our world is critically important, and thankfully I'm not alone in thinking this. This April, Project Explore commissioned a national survey of teachers, parents, and hiring managers. And if you knew what Project Explore was, you weren't allowed to participate in this survey. And we asked about 50 questions, and these, for me, were the most interesting findings. Is it more important today than ever before for students to learn about other countries and cultures? 80% of teachers said yes. 82% of hiring managers said yes. The other question I found interesting: will students who understand other countries and cultures be more successful than those who don't? 75% of the people responding said yes. Now, despite all of this, as a country, we haven't made much change to how students learn about the world, and you can imagine why. So, out of our survey, these are the challenges we face 10 years later. Teachers are strapped for classroom resources that would let them innovate in the classroom. 70% of teachers say they do not regularly incorporate material about other countries and cultures into their lesson plans due to lack of resources or subject matter. Global education is still linked with travel, which many teachers consider to be something that students will eventually get to do if they choose. So global education is considered nice to have as opposed to a necessity. And of course, increased focus on testing and less unstructured time means less creativity. Many teachers feel that they have to address the basics first, and only then can they add global issues. So 78% of teachers in our survey agree we need to teach students the basics like math, science, and reading before we spend time teaching them about other countries and cultures. Here's the thing though. In my work with Project Explore, I've been privileged to work with students around the globe. Whether it's an all-girls refugee school in Jordan or a township school in Johannesburg, in an earthquake-stricken primary school in Haiti, or my former grade school in upstate New York, I found that students all have one thing in common: a curiosity about the world. Young people everywhere have this intense passion to experience the world, and this sense of adventure and curiosity can be harnessed to teach them about whatever you might have in store. Curiosity is a skill that all kids are born with. Young children are constantly asking questions to better understand their world, but soon after they reach school, these big questions often stop as they learn the value placed on a right answer. Most new tools and resources that are getting a lot of attention focus purely on lecture, delivery, and learning by rote. I believe that this innovation in education isn't enough. A crucial part of learning is adapting a fact to your own viewpoint, and that requires questioning. That requires educators encouraging this natural curiosity that we all inherently have. Learning the basics does not have to come at the expense of learning about other countries and cultures. Educators can tap into this curiosity by infusing global perspectives across disciplines. By linking global concepts, clever storytelling, and important facts together, students will be more likely to recall all three. We can teach the basics through lessons that will help to enhance awareness and knowledge of other countries and cultures. And I'm going to give you a few examples of how Project Explorer does this, especially in the areas of STEM, which is a new focus that we're putting, STEM from a global perspective. So we've linked global education in Thailand, Newton's laws of motion with ziplining in Thailand. So global location, science lesson. We've linked kinetic and potential energy with bungee jumping in South Africa. Again, global location, science lesson. And last week, I filmed our first true math lesson. We filmed math lessons on permutations linked to the game of chess, which incidentally is the national sport of Azerbaijan, which is our soon-to-be-released 8th series. So I'm going to show you another video, and this is an example of how we use globally focused science videos to teach about the science of island formation from our Mauritius series. So Steve, if we can just go back. So I hope everyone was able to see that one as well. Okay, I'm going to continue. I hope that everyone was able to view that. So that's an example of how we're really focused on STEM education right now from a global perspective. I just find that there's so few really cool videos that kids can watch in the classroom from a STEM perspective. So that's from our Mauritius series, which debuted about a month ago, and from from viewer feedback, the science lessons are the favorite from the section. So I hope you'll check out our website and watch the science of helicopter flights and the respiratory cycle for fish and all the other lovely STEM videos we have on there. So Project Explorer in 2013, we're entering our 10th year, and we are hoping to tackle even more complex issues and produce content on more controversial places. We do ask parents, teachers, and students where they would like us to go next, and we are finding that educators are asking for videos on places like North Korea, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Cuba, and Saudi Arabia. So obviously that presents us with some issues as a journalist crew getting access to those places, but we are attempting to look at the themes that educators are looking for and address those, if not in those locations, from other locations that will allow us to cover the subject matters that are requested. And we want to cover these locations to empower teachers with the resources they need to help their students better understand our increasingly complex world. And even with the relatively few places I've filmed, my work in the global education movement as a whole have drawn criticism from those who feel a global education is anti-American. And as you can imagine, I'm likely to get a lot more negative feedback based on where I want to go next. One of the most important tasks of an educator is to foster the next generation of global citizens, a generation that is better prepared to communicate in our rapidly shrinking world, a generation that understands the importance of global issues given how increasingly interdependent countries are becoming. I urge those listening tonight, and I thank you for your time, I urge you to encourage curiosity by infusing your lesson plans with global issues. And while learning the basics is vitally important to one's education, if we're not preparing our students to be members of a global society, we're doing them a massive disservice. So that's my presentation. I hope you'll all check out projectexplorer.org. And I am here for any questions you might have. And I'm sure there are quite a few of them because I saw them coming up in the chat. So I'm here for whatever you want to throw my way.
Hi, Jenny. I'm Anne.
Hi, Anne. Thank you. So I've got a question from Denise here that says, how do you avoid just touching the tip of the iceberg when it comes to culture? When we look at doing a location, we ask for the advice of, I mentioned having about 50 volunteer educators, and they come and go based on the project. We do work closely with tourism boards and local ministers of education, and we look for the hidden gems in a country. So I'm not going to go film in Italy or Greece because there's information out there on that. Again, we're meant to be a springboard for open dialogue, so we do touch on the tip of culture, but we tend to film more things that are off the beaten path that you wouldn't find in a typical textbook, you wouldn't have access to online. One example of that is when we filmed in Belize, we filmed with the Garifuna people, and they have their own language. And it's an incredibly small population of shipwrecked slaves that came to Belize in the 1700s and mixed with the local indigenous population. So, I mean, that's something that you don't typically see people filming. Music-wise, we've captured instruments on film that have never been captured anywhere else in the world. So we really use the local knowledge to sort of capture the essence of the culture that wouldn't be captured anywhere else. Denise, I hope that answers your question. Anyone else? Considering Taiwan, yes, we actually have a proposal into the Taiwanese Tourism Board, and we need to work in conjunction with the local tourism boards to enable us to get access and translators and things of that nature. We are primarily funded by the tourism boards of the countries in which we work. So yes, Taiwan is high on our list, and if you go back to the map that's earlier in the presentation, you'll see that it's marked with a little pin. What that means in process. So, and yeah, there are incredibly interesting indigenous populations there, and I think it's a very overlooked place. So, yeah. Anyone else? Okay, so I have a question from Kristen here about math. Yeah, we did film a segment in Azerbaijan on chess regarding risk strategy and permutations of chess games. That will be available in the fall. As of right now, we have no other math resources, strictly math resources, unless they're tying to financial planning, global foreign exchange. The global foreign exchange would be in every series, so understanding how international currency works. And then any math that would be tied to science lessons. But again, if you go on our website, there's an educator portion, and you can click on the educator section, and there's something that says curriculum map or resource map, and that allows you to search by subject and academic level. So, Kristen, I hope that answers your question. Okay, Sandy has a question on how difficult is it to fundraise for new series? Incredibly difficult. The majority of our support, as I said, comes from local tourism boards. We are typically, we never pay for hotels, we never pay for airfare. That's always covered within the locations we work. But there are obviously the day-to-day expenses. I mean, we run on an incredibly modest budget of about $350,000 a year, and we have an audience of 5 million students, so it's literally pennies per student. So we're always looking for new partners to help us. And one of the biggest complaints we do have is we wish the series could be done faster from parents and educators. Can you produce more content? The only thing holding us back from producing content is obviously financial. We know how to do this. We know how to do this fast. We know how to do this of the highest quality. It's just it typically takes us 6 months to fundraise for one series. So Sandy, I hope that answers your question. Okay, Sandy has a follow-up question. And Denise offered to host us in Taiwan, so that would be lovely. Sandy's question is, how can we help to promote fundraising? I mean, honestly, the majority of our fundraising is done on a smaller scale, so in the $20 to $50 range. If it's a resource you use in the classroom or you use at home, we don't pressure anyone to, of course, to send money, but it is definitely appreciated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. So if it's a service, just like PBS, that you find valuable and beneficial to your students and to your children, we hope that you'll consider making a contribution towards one of our future series. And to instill some confidence, last year's expenses, 92% of every dollar we raised went directly to our programming. Sandy, does that answer your question? Anyone else?
Jenny, I'm helping the next keynote get set up, and Ann Merchant was in here, but her computer crashed. Have you done okay?
I've done just fine, and I think I'll just give it another minute or two, and if no one has any other questions, we'll sign off. But I can be contacted via my Twitter there, or just at our website at info@projectexplorer.org.
Looks like you were well appreciated.
Okay, well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. We're always accessible by email, no matter where in the world we are. So thank you, everyone.